Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. We're back again at the fake coding interviews. We have Tsvetan hailing from what city are you hailing from, Tsvetan?
Sofia, Bulgaria.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so this is the fake interview, and the purpose of this, as we mentioned, is people who are not clear on how to go about creating software and etc. can benefit, I believe, watching real pros, how they tackle challenges, how they work in real time. Of course, it's a big pressure coding in front of camera, so please take that into consideration. So Svetan will be under certain stress, probably not how you really work, but anyway, you can show us and teach us a lot of interesting things. Why don't you maybe just briefly tell us a little bit about you, where you're coming from, and what's your current focus in your profession, and then we can go to the challenge.
hmm Okay, definitely. So I've been in the industry for about 10 years. It's not much, but I've seen some things. As a teenager, I really wanted to get into game development. So that's my first job, and I kind of like it. But the game development industry is a bit demanding, so I went out of that. And for the last 7 years, I've been into web development, and lately I've been dealing with more with distributed systems, microservice architectures, and currently my interest is mainly to move forward to like a more staff and so on engineering role, and dive deeper into more complex architectures, work with more people, and understand the business better. So that's in brief about me.
Excellent, thank you. And how's life in Sofia?
Oh, it's great. It's a bit rainy these days, but
Hmm.
the weather is quite warm. It's really nice. We have Vitusha, which is the mountain near Sofia. You can go skiing there in the winter and hiking in the summer. So it's lovely.
Excellent. And how is the professional scene in Sofia? Do you have a lot of engineers you can associate with?
Yeah, there's a really great talent pool here, I should say. We also have a bit of foreign companies, but we also have interesting Bulgarian companies. For the past, if unicorn is something meaningful, we have them
Mm.
for the past few years. But we also have more mature companies. So it's great. You have what to work here.
Yeah, I was invited a couple of years ago to present at the conference in Sofia. I forgot exactly what conference, but then the pandemic hit and it was canceled. But
Yeah.
it was nice because that organizer, because I'm in Vancouver, and they offered to pay all the expenses of travel and everything, which is unusual, right? And I was really
Yeah.
looking forward to visiting, and then this pandemic hit, and it was all. So maybe now we can try and repeat that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it would, maybe we can meet in person. Um, so on to the challenge. So
Mhm.
and this is going to be Mickey Mouse challenge because we don't have much time, right? We don't
Yeah.
have time to really sink into real world problems, but real life problems. But um, suppose if we go back in time in the early
Mhm.
days of uh, cellular phones,
Mhm.
where it was kind of expensive. The data was more expensive, right? So people
Mhm.
were communicating via SMS,
Mhm.
simple message,
Yeah.
service. And of course, the brevity was very important because you don't want to, you know, you don't have enough data to be sending long
Mhm.
uh, paragraphs. So let's suppose that some service provider has built a service where it limits the text to 160 characters.
Okay.
It's very, very sparse. But there was a time, and today it feels weird, but there was a time where people really had to be almost like a telegraph, right? A
Yeah.
Morse, right? Early days of telecommunications. So that's fine. So they can they can limit your text to 160 characters. But then what they discover is users are complaining that sometimes if I'm writing a text to you and I'm typing something and I
Mhm.
put send, and then I get frustrated because it comes back and says, "Oh, this is too long. This is
Okay.
165 characters," and now you have to retype. So they approach you as a service, as a software engineer,
Mhm.
and they ask, "Hey, Tsvetan, would you be able to write a little routine that we can incorporate into our service so that when somebody sends a message that is longer than 160 characters, you crunch it starting from the end of the message by eliminating one space, capitalizing the first letter of the last word, and you keep going like that until you hit 160. So that even though the message itself is longer than 160, let's say it's 180, but you can
Mhm.
crunch the last part with a message and people can still kind of read, even though, sometimes when you see camel case, you can parse the
Mhm.
sentence, right?
Mhm. I
And so
understand.
right, so you can maybe, even though your message is too long, if you crunch it from the end and
Mhm.
you camel case it, then people can still read your text and understand what you mean. And
Okay.
then you can say, sure, I can do that. And now, can you walk us through your thinking process? How would you do it? And you don't have to solve it, but we're just interested in your approach. How do you tackle that
Mhm.
problem? Does that make
Okay.
sense? And how
Yeah.
about I'm going to give you an example. uh,
Mhm.
oh, sorry, just one sec. I'm going to give you an example. Just sorry, I was just in another meeting, so I didn't have time to prepare absolutely everything, but it will take just a second. So here is one sentence that I'm going to paste in the chat.
Mhm.
And then I'm also going to, so this is 100 and I think 80 something characters long. And I
Mhm.
also prepared for you the crunched sentence that is exactly 160 characters next to it. So maybe you can later on share your screen and the viewers can see the sentence. So the first one is, I forgot the exact number, okay, but it's over 160. The second one, I crunched it down to exactly 160. So this is the expected, if somebody tries to send
Mhm.
that text, your code will crunch
Mhm.
it down to that. This is your expected value. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Totally.
All right, excellent. And maybe you can just tell us before you start, what is your preferred stack or programming language or tech that you will
O-
be?
Okay. So lately I've been using PHP a lot, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, cool. So please share your screen and just maybe
Okay.
can,
Yeah.
if you can try and talk while you are doing it, it will help. But you don't have
Mhm.
to, right? We can discuss later, whatever works for you.
Okay. Definitely. Do you see my screen?
Yeah. Sorry, it's just still. Yeah, I see. We see your screen.
Okay. So I have a little editor here, and I'll actually start by recording your example so I have it in plain sight
Yeah, that's the
before
best.
I turn it into code. So um, the first thing I'd really like to do is to write a test, basically something r- really simple and the happy path.
And maybe
And
for our
yeah,
viewers, maybe explain why do you prefer to write tests first?
okay. So I find the test-driven development really valuable as a practice when designing code and solving problems. In my experience, I've seen several times how by writing the test itself, the solution um, pops out, or what's the word? Like the test helps you solve the task, and that's only for me. That's only one of the benefits of TDD. So that's why I plan to approach the problem like this.
Thank you.
Um, I can go deeper into TDD, but I don't
As,
know if.
as you're coding, maybe every now and then you can explain why you
Mhm.
that way or this way. Thank you.
Okay, and because of the time constraints, I won't use any um, framework, unit test framework or something. I'll just write a test method and then the implementation.
Yeah.
And by the way, is the font okay? Should I increase it?
If you can zoom in a bit more, that would help.
Let me find how that's done here.
Maybe try Control Plus. Sometimes that
Control
works.
plus or
Which editor is that? VS Code or?
No, this is a PHP Storm. It's IntelliJ
Ah, okay.
based. Oh, there's
Is there a Zoom? That's okay.
uh,
Don't worry about it.
okay. If the phone is okay, okay. Oh,
I can kind of
okay,
read, no problem. I guess I hope everybody else
okay,
can.
okay. So the first thing I'll actually, if I go forward with the happy path, I think it will be a bit too much because it's kind of a big example.
Yeah.
So maybe what I would do is to write a test that takes, for example, these four words and
Yeah.
tries to remove a space from them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good approach. Try, small
Yeah,
steps, simple, get it to work. Yeah.
yeah, and I can even get two words.
I
So
like.
test remove single space. Um, we have a sentence which is plugin is, and I'll actually move forward and write the function. So compact message. The result is the invocation of this method, this function, and I'll assert that result is equal to plugin is, like that. And if we try to run that, it should fail. Yeah, okay. Okay, it finished with exit code 0. It doesn't say why, which is I expect that because PHP can't build. Actually, it doesn't fail because I don't invoke the function. Okay, so now it should run properly. Okay, so we see that compact message is undefined, so let's define it.
So maybe,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, maybe just quickly mention why do you feel that
Mhm.
it is very important to first see the test fail?
Okay. So I think that's really important because if I just move forward and like write the test and try the function and uh, see it succeed, I might have missed a bug in the test itself.
Hmm.
So the test itself might be incorrect
So
if
that's
it,
a false positive, right?
yeah, that's
And
a,
then later on, you count on that test to catch regression, but it doesn't.
yes,
And then it,
exactly.
it gives you false sense of security that you can proceed, but actually, so yeah,
Yeah, and I might even go further and once I write the function and the test passes, I might do some modification in the function itself to see that it really fails, but I'm not sure whether that's
sure.
really needed. I think that's called mutation testing.
Yeah, can I quickly interrupt, Tsvetan? This
Yeah.
is just join our friend Maxi. Hey, Maxi. So Maxi
Hey.
is a great educator, developer, whatever you want to call it, coach, manager. Hi, Maxi. Um, we enjoyed Max and I enjoyed. We were running the TDD conference last year, and
Mhm.
here we are, Maxi, with Tsvetan. He's showing us how would he tackle this problem. And just quickly to repeat, the problem is if you have a SMS service that is limited to 160 characters, then when people type a message and it is longer than 160 characters, they get frustrated because the service rejects. And now we are asking Tsvetan to build a routine that will take a longer than 160 character message and then crunch it down starting from the end of the message, removing spaces, camel casing the words until it hits 160. And I gave Tsvetan two examples, one with a message that is over 160, and then the way you crunch it down. So Tsvetan is now doing TDD. He just started. First test failed with a simple, and now anyhow he's going. So feel free to jump in and comment. Maxi, Maxi is a great, fantastic TDD guy. He is like a
Great.
top notch. So he will help us a lot here. And please continue, Tsvetan, share your screen, and let's carry on. Thank you.
Okay.
Very
First,
much.
nice to meet you, Maxi. So, uh,
Nice
okay.
to meet you. I will not interrupt you.
Okay. Okay, so moving forward, we have our first test failing. Uh, as I think of it, it might be a bit bigger than usual. Maybe a better approach would have been to just first compact the string and then add another test to test the camel casing, but for the sake of time, I'll move forward. So compact message should um, have the message as input and should have the compacted message as output. And um, at first, I'll just actually, mm, I'll just try to do it as simple as possible. So maybe let's see, just join the message and let's see. I think actually PHP has even uppercase. Okay, so it won't be so simple. So I'll move forward word by word through the message. So it, okay. So I'll have the message here and split it by space. And then for each word, I'll move forward and map it. Let's see. Okay, it would be
Can I jump in for a
yeah,
second?
yeah.
I think it's taking too long for you to start with the first simple use case. What did what it's a symptom. What do you think? Why do you think this is happening to you as this is your first case?
Yeah, I think the test is too complicated. So, and I have to write a lot of code to make it pass.
Yeah, that might be one of the reasons. In fact, the test is not the simplest one that one can do. But
Mm-hmm.
regarding your solutions always should be incremental, and this is taking too long, and this is a symptom of another problem. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think is helping? I think you're writing an algorithm, and you are writing your first algorithm on your first test case. So
Mm-hmm.
if we are doing 2DD, what would be the second conclusion? The first conclusion is a correct one, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
You are testing something that is not as simple as it could be. But the second problem is regarding your solution, not your test case. What do you think of your solution? Because you're setting a words variable and entering a for each, and you have just one case. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
think this is happening?
Um, so the other reason might be that um, hmm, Well, if maybe another approach is to just fake the test, and after that I can write another one which captures a different aspect of the algorithm. But that's again, that boils down to the simplicity of the test.
So, Tsvetan, have
Yeah,
you ever heard of the zombies formula in TDD?
the zombies formula.
Zombies.
Mm,
It's an ac-
maybe I've it's
it's an acronym that James Granning came up with and helps a lot. Z, the first set stands for zero. So first you tackle zero or empty or something is not there. The
mm-hmm.
simplest thing. We just don't have it, right? O in the zombie stands for one. So you just have one
Yeah.
occurrence or something. M for many, B for boundaries, I for interfaces, and S for simple solutions. So why don't you
Mm-hmm.
start with Z and see how far you get, and then move to one.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've actually heard that, but not like an acronym. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so starting with one, um
Maybe with
maybe
zero.
with
Nothing is there,
zero.
right?
In this context, zero is we do nothing to the message itself. We
Yeah.
just
It's an empty
return
string,
test.
right? You just bail out. You just
That's
Uh,
you have a
often the problem in production. In production systems, we miss with the zero case. Usually, that's what's so important to start at a zero, what a null, what an empty case. It's the production. It's the production. Today we are on Friday. It's production problem. The zero.
yeah. Good
yeah.
point, Mark.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So starting with the empty string, the solution is simple. We just return the empty string, and it should.
But first, write the
Uh,
test.
yeah. Okay. So test empty string. Okay. So, and we have the message itself, and no assertions fail. Is that good?
Can I help you because you're working with PHP and you are using assert and you are not making assert because assert is not the word. It's not the PHP. I don't know if you want to use PHP unit or another framework, but assert is like a production pragma assertion and it's not test case assertion indeed. So you're not doing anything, and that's what is worrying you with the when running the test. You're not asserting at all, even though you're using assert.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah, I deliberately decided not to use a testing framework for speed's sake. But yeah, and I'm a bit new to PHP, so some things can be better. So I can write a little assert method to pro to do what it is expected. Basically, have a condition and the message, and if the condition fails, it should output the message, and if not, it should output nothing. So we can have the tools we need, because I really don't know if there's a built-in method in PHP to do an assertion that we want to do. So it's condition and have message. So if the condition fails, we should output the message and exit with 1. Else we can exit with 0. And if I call assert test, the message might be result is not empty. And then once I run this, if I break the test for some reason, the assertion should appear and the exit code should be 1. Okay, so is that okay until here? And
What do you think, Maxi? Would that do the
I
job?
think according following TDD rules, it's okay because when you run one test, it will work okay. I think we can go ahead, but your solution might not work when you run more than one test. And you
yeah,
can
because
watch it out, but if you are TDD, it's very good. We are fine. But if you want to think, you are doing some things that are not coding standards when running code and not running a script. So I might ask you, why did you use an exit? And what do you think exit does?
okay, so I used exit because I want to terminate the script on failed assertion, and exit basically terminates the script and returns an exit code, which exit code can be used by other programs to understand whether this program finished successfully or whether it failed for some reason.
So what do you think is going to happen when you run more than one test? And
Yeah.
yes,
So
enough.
yeah, on the first failing test, the other tests, the rest of the tests won't be run, which isn't okay because we might want to see how a certain change, because a certain change might affect more than a single test, and we won't be able to detect that. So we'll see the first failing test, we'll fix that, and then another one will pop out. So but maybe seeing a group of tests fail will point us to the direction of the bug or the reason why the tests fail.
Not just the reason, but the first one that fails, and since ordering is not strict, can be anything. So you will not have an impact analysis because you will not see how many tests are failing. You just see there's one test failing in your whole suite. Might be a suite of 1,000 tests, but you will break on the first one. So okay, but we can, if we are not going to TDD, I will say stop, halt, and fix. But TDD, if one works, we keep on. We are blind to next cases. So what do you think, Alex? Should we move on?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for now, it's okay that we know that the system broke, whether it's for one test or 1,000 tests. We know it broke. We won't get the necessarily all the information needed to understand why it broke, but at least we know something is off. And in this simple case, we can keep going, I think. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So we move forward with the single case. So test single word, I'll call it, and this is the result of compacting, let's say, debugging. And we're going to assert that result is equal to debugging. And the failure message is that we can be more so I want to do string interpolation, but I'll just concatenate the. And so, and now I also have to call the methods. And when I run this, both succeed for some reason. Oh, of course. Maybe Maxi, that was the thing you
Told you
wanted to
so.
point.
Told you so.
Yeah. I wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So, um, okay. So the next test fails. So I'm going to fix it with the simplest possible action and just return the input. And this should make the whole test suite pass.
That's the simplest one. Can you come from? Don't you come from another one, because you're generalizing the concept of returning what is being sent as a parameter? Is that the simple solution? Because even though you cannot see it, this is an algorithmic solution. What would and TDD is incremental and tell us fake it till we make it. I'm pretty sure you're making it even before you fake it enough. So can you think of a simpler, even simpler solution?
I can return the exact string, like I can return debugging.
Will this work with test one?
No, it won't
So
actually.
you have two cases. You have the solution for case one, and you can think of solution of case two by faking, but also faking it. So you have two inputs and two outputs. Then you can don't you think of anything simpler than an algorithm that consists in returning what you get? Two inputs, two outputs.
So what I can think of a conditional, but that will
Yeah.
be more complicated.
No, it's not more complicated. Your solution, to me, in my humble opinion, is more complicated because your generalization over two cases, and this is what TDD is against too. Two cases sometimes are not good enough for generalization. And an if solution, it's still faking it because if have a lot of problems, but you can keep learning from the domain and gathering more use cases following zombies methodology. You are in the Z, you are in the one, and even before you start with the M or the many, you come with a solution. So, in my opinion, an ugly if, faker if, is simpler than, because simpler is not counting the sentences, the amount of code you are working. Of course, mass message seem to be simpler, but it's a generalization.
Okay.
So it's such a suggestion. I don't know. I don't want to drive you to solution, but I challenge you to think that this, even though it thinks a simpler solution, is not. It's not simpler.
That's a brilliant point, Maxi.
Okay, so basically what you're suggesting is to, if the input is empty, just return an empty string, otherwise return the input itself.
Okay,
And
so
yeah,
maybe for my benefit, step back. What is your expectation at this point in time? What do you expect the system to do? The system is going to behave and do something, and you're expecting evidence of behavior. What is your first expectation? Maybe think that way. That's how I think. So here
okay,
we have,
so
right? We have a system. It's in a nascent state. It's barely there. But what's the first expectation when I approach the system and I trigger it or I manipulate it? And usually we do it by sending some values to the system. Now I'm expecting some behavior, and the behavior to me is the return. I interpret the behavior by the value I get from the system after the system operates. And I like to do it first, the simplest, most simplest case. What do I expect? Something bare bones system can tell me this, right? And then, like Maxi said, now I'm learning step by step and discovering the capabilities of the system. And in the process, we will be discovering hopefully some very interesting uh, design ideas about the structure of the system. And that's the beauty of this whole process that Maxi is also explaining. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to overcomplicate it, but I'm just telling you how my thinking goes when I approach these things. You may choose a different approach, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so um,
Did we manage to confuse you? I'm sorry. That
yeah,
wasn't
yeah, it's
that wasn't the intention. Anyway, it's cool. It's fine. Relax. However, whatever makes you comfortable, just carry on.
okay. Probably when once I write the more case, I'll be able to, and I'll start to see what you actually mean, because currently I can't really understand
Yeah, yeah,
the idea of
yeah,
I mean, I understand the incremental approach. Currently I can't see what I'm missing, what incremental step I'm missing. So
yeah.
probably once I write
I
again,
just want to say, I just want to
yeah.
say, whether you do TD or not, you are always, even subconsciously, but when I anybody wants to make changes to the code, there's always driven by some expectation, right?
Hmm.
Somebody's expecting that this change is gonna result in something, right? And having this introspection, having this pointing back and like, what am I expecting here, right? With this new move, and I
Hmm.
think that is sometimes helping to guide your approach, whether it's TDD or whatever you're doing. But there's always this kind of expectation because nobody's making changes to the code just to kill time. Just okay, just going to make some changes, right? Usually, we have a purpose. We want to achieve something.
Yes. So
And
okay.
sorry,
Yeah.
one last point, maybe to expedite things. My approach, my thinking is it's kind of around the number of characters. I think we here have to find a way for the system to tell us the number of characters because we as the user is typing, nobody's counting. As I'm typing a message, I'm not counting characters. So
Hmm.
the system is capable of number crunching and telling me, okay, this is how many characters your message, you're over limit, right? So we something around those things. I want to point the number of characters may play a role in this design, right?
Hmm. So basically, what you suggest is not to base the decision on the message content itself, but on the the how should I say it, the main value of this function, to reduce the number of characters. So probably if I
Oh,
uh,
number of characters will be a helper, right? But at the end of this exercise, your system should be able to crunch the longer text down to 160,
mhm,
and also there will be a text long enough that it cannot be crunched. If somebody types 1,000 characters, there is no way you can crunch them to 160.
mhm,
And also there will be text that will be less than 160, so we don't have to do anything, right? So
mhm,
these are all possibilities. And also there will be a text that has 0 characters.
yeah,
So right there we have we all already jumped to boundaries. We rush.
yeah.
Sorry, I just had to because um, in the interest of time. But anyway, now you carry on however you feel like. Don't let me
Okay,
anymore.
I will leave this as is and move forward with the more case, um, and see what happens. But I suppose so. Test many words. Uh, and I'll start with the with this prefix. And again, the result actually should be uh, and I don't really like the copy paste here, and that's making me think that we can improve something in this assertion, but I'm going to leave that for now. So let's see what happens when I run this test. And well, it succeeded, but I'm not convinced that the test works, because I might have I in order
Your
to
test works. The problem is not the test is working, and I can assure because I compiled it in my mind. And I think it's working.
yeah.
What does I have two questions. Sorry, you
Mhm.
choose for the many ones. You choose a string with 4 or 5 spaces. Why did you choose with 5 and not with 2 or 10 or 1,000? Why many? Many is something that you think, but you have to instantiate it. Why did you choose 4 and not 5 spaces? Why did you choose this kind? So
Mhm.
why many is this case? Your use case is you implemented in this case. Why?
Mhm. Um, okay, so it was kind of mechanical, but as I think of it more, I think that many should actually encompass something uh, that that's outside the boundary. For example, uh, because currently test for me the test isn't meaningful with these few words, because uh, it doesn't tell me anything new about the system I'm designing.
Yes, and why did you think of it, but you have evidence? What has just happened when you run test 3?
Yeah, what happened is that it didn't fail first.
Yes, and
So
what does mean in TDD? Using TDD, what does a test not a test working in the first without changing the system? What does it mean?
uh, it means that it doesn't give me any new information
Yeah,
about how the system should
yeah.
evolve.
So how would you fix it, or what do you think you did wrong, or what will you do from now on?
Um, what I'll do is actually have the home message, or at least this is a bit crossing the boundary, the between many and boundary. Uh, so I really feel that if I get the message until here, I'll have a test that's failing, because what you expect is actually if and q to be concatenated and to be camel case.
So
Um,
I wanted
mhm,
wanted to think out of the box, because
mhm,
when I said there was a simpler solution,
mhm,
you went ahead and said, let's put a conditioner, and I said, okay, it's what TDD tells you to do, but you did write a condition, but you overgeneralize your condition. You said
mhm,
this condition, then else the other solution.
mhm,
But you when I said don't use the algorithm and the algorithm was to return the message, you said, okay, I put a condition, but then I write my algorithm. And you wrote your algorithm on line 13. You said return message. So you wrote the conditions, but you did write the algorithm. And this is why test 3 is working, because the solution you did, even though you use a conditional, was too general.
mhm,
I I told you, in my opinion, you should use a condition and said 2 cases, 2 solutions. You wrote 2 cases, one solution for case 1 and one solution for the case 2 and everything that's coming before the threshold. So your
mhm,
solution, even this solution, is too general, and that's why test 3 worked. If you had written, I don't want you to do no. Now, uh, 2 conditions with 2 solutions,
mhm,
then test 3 will fail. So your solution is not as simple as we can. And you are learning, you are making more deductions than you
Mhm.
need to from the input you are getting. You are
I see.
overgeneralizing.
I
Okay.
understand. So I now understand what you meant back then. So um, in this case, what I can.
Please don't fix it. What I
Okay.
will ask you on the second question is, what TDD advise you to do with a not failing test, with test many words that is working okay? What will you
Uh,
do? You will keep it, you will remove it, you will write it. What will you do?
I rewrite it and make it fail. I will rewrite it in a way to make it fail. Actually, so the the whole TDD loop is you write a test, a failing test, you fix a little code to make the test pass, and then you have the third step, which uh,
So, Tsvetan,
yeah.
maybe sometimes when I get stuck, I go back and I think the test is the first client or the first consumer of my system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is this client expecting? Because the test stands in for sometimes for the actual client, the actual
Mm-hmm.
person holding a cell phone and typing in SMS. And when that SMS is finished and he pushes send, then the system takes it, and two things can happen. Either just
Mm-hmm.
takes it and sends it, or pushes back and say, no, I cannot send this, it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Or the third thing that we're not trying to make it is like, even though it's longer than the system can take, that the service can take, your solution crunches it down to acceptable length and sends it. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing that, start with the simplest, where um, two simplest in my case things are either everything's cool, I took it and I sent it, no need for you to even intervene,
Mm-hmm.
or even your system cannot crunch it, so it's way too long. We just, sorry, this is, you type too many characters, we you cannot send your text, right? This will be two extreme cases, edge cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you can solve these two,
Mm-hmm.
keeping in mind from that the test is your first customer.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have these two solved and you are now protected from regression, now you move in and start crunching it down and see all the in between cases. Would that make sense, maybe, to push the needle?
Yeah, I understand. So uh, the idea of test many words should be to test the extreme, the case where we can't crunch the message. So
Yeah.
uh,
So maybe
it
rename
should
that
just
test
fail.
into, yeah, maybe
Sorry?
rename that. You can maybe rename that test to say, sorry, I can't help here. This is way too long. There's no way we can crunch it, right? So that you have that. because the service is expecting you to be the broker of the messages. You're creating a broker which is intervening, trying to make it, put it in shape, and then either succeeds or fails, right?
Hmm.
And then if you fail, you just send, you forward, say, look, I cannot crunch this, we cannot send this, I'm sorry, something like that, right?
Okay. Okay,
That
so
could be the many or the boundaries. It's not defined, but it's the limit the threshold you have passed, and you need to be in the algorithm crunching. It could be the many, the boundaries. Could be both.
mhm.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I can probably take why is this text? It won't good, but I'll just leave it as is. And how many characters are there? Probably there are enough. So, and basically I should expect now the interesting question is how is the system going to tell it has failed, and I'll just use an exception here.
One
Yeah.
one small step that I could recommend, and this is how I would do it,
Mm-hmm.
is have a test that tests whether the system can correctly count the number of characters. You
Mm-hmm.
give it a string, and you make a test that fails, that is, incorrectly counting it, and then make it pass. So now you know that your code can always correctly count the number of characters, right? Because you need to know the number of characters. There's got to be a point in time when you need to be able to know your system to tell you whether it's over 160 or not. If it's up to
Yes.
160, everything cool.
Yes, but isn't that an internal part of the system? Like, if I'm the client, should I test whether the system knows the number of characters? Because
No, no, but I mean, sometimes we have those intermediary little steps.
Mhm.
Uh, I That's how I work sometimes. I have those intermediate little steps that guide my coding, and then once they get incorporated into a larger test, then I delete those little tests. But that's how I take baby steps. But you don't have to do
Mhm.
it. And you're right. You can bypass that. Just one suggestion to keep things rolling.
Mhm. Uh, okay, I'll move forward with the current approach. Maybe the count will really help me to reach the appropriate algorithm faster. But I don't want to get more confused right now. Uh, so so we have the message that's supposedly wrong to Wong. I really have to make sure it is, because I can't rely on I mean, so it's 358 characters long, which should be really enough. So once I've made sure that this is a fact, I should expect that compact message should fail in some way. I've chosen the design to fail with an exception, because that's what's preferred in the PHP world. Maybe if it was Golang, I would return an error. So I'll catch a message to Wong exception, And here comes the interesting part where you don't use a unit testing framework, because actually, if it doesn't throw an exception, I should reach the assertion, which should actually fail. But I also want to make sure that I've got the right exception because of the interface that compact message provides. But this might be a too big step. So for now, I'll keep it really simple, and just assert that if this hasn't thrown anything, then the test has failed. So if we reach that point, then the test has failed, and we should so if I run it now, see that the test itself is failing. And then I can move back to compact message and actually make the test pass. So here, the question is, what's the tiniest increment I can make to make the test pass? Because I can think of something more complicated, like counting the number of characters in the string, counting the number of spaces, and if characters minus spaces is more than 160, then compact message won't work.
What about camel casing?
So will camel casing affect the length? Because if you
No,
turn a sorry, yeah.
no, you won't affect the length, but your delivery, your spec is expecting that the crunched message will be camel. Anytime you remove a space, you camel case the word. You capitalize the word, right?
Yes, but aren't we testing the way too long test
Okay,
case?
just that. Okay.
Yeah. So
I have a question regarding the test, not the solution you are going to build, because I saw you write the count you count the characters in the console, and you say, oh, that's good enough. This will be actually a use case that will raise an exception. But I think you didn't follow the scientific method. That's not what the user wants. The user does not say that if it's a hard limit to be 350, I think you said. You should have done a proof of concept, a test proof, and say, even though I can crunch it and can camel case this, even camel casing would not be enough. So you infer a business rule that is not actually correct. That you said, if I have 350 characters, that would be enough. And I may come up with some counterexample that this is not true. So you are sitting with a use case that is not actual a business case, because in this case, you are right, because this cannot be crunched, but it's not because of its size. Is because of its spaces and its kernel case.
Yes.
So you said, I have a margin, I have a safe margin, I have a 350, it's too long, I'm pretty sure that, but you're not writing good use cases. You should have done writing the rule, the business rule, and compact, handily compact, instead of counting the size, and said, okay, this is its input, this is the output, the outcome. It will not be enough, but not because of the size or the length, because it cannot be camel case. So you're starting with a wrong test case. Actually, this is very good because you have a lot of safe, because from 64 to 350, it's good enough, and we know that. But in production, this might not be a very good case. Okay? So, and now a hint, move on with the solution and don't think on algorithms, on camel case, think on faking it, because you have an offending case and you have what you need to be done. So fake it until you have more use cases. So don't come up with the strings and counting, fake it. Okay. Sorry again. It's my...
Oh, that's brilliant, Max.
Yes.
And I already provided you the success example. And to Max's point, maybe you fabricate a failure example, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
the simplest thing I can do here is to just check if the length of this message is bigger than 160 characters, and this will also
How many
so
cases you have when you? How many cases you have when you need to throw the exception? Now, up to now, how many cases do you have?
so I think this is the first one.
Well, so why are you generalizing from one case?
Aha.
If you see a zebra, you see there is a mammal, an animal, or you see just a zebra until you see a lion and you see a man and then you say, oh, that those are mammals. Why are you overgeneralizing when you have just one case? Why do you infer a rule, a business rule? Of course, Alex provided you with a business case, but TDD asked us to learn as if we are not we're not aware. We're learning by example. So you are providing your own examples. That's what TDD is for, but you are learning too fast. You are generalizing too fast. You are seeing mammals where I see a zebra. Okay, let's write for the zebra. Let's write for the horse. Let's write for the lion, and let's say there's a concept. If it has, if it breeds milk, then it's a mammal. But you find the solution once you have a lot of examples. That's how science works. You need several different examples. So come up with the easiest and fake it with the most easily faker rule. You have one example, write for the example.
Okay, so in order to fake it, I can just check that the message is this string and throw an exception.
Yeah, that's easier than counting, because counting is generalizing. You're inferring a property on the length, and that's, you have one case. We don't know, you're agnostic of what that's the length of the string.
Okay then, so we'll use that. And I think now I understand what you meant with the previous. So throw new exception. So this should make the test pass. No. Yeah. Okay, yeah, the test passes, but my assertion library is unable to.
The test does not pass. But
yeah,
then
okay. Yes, I agree.
You write the test, and you didn't write the actual rule, the actual business rule. You write the first thing, the first part of the actual rule, but you went ahead to the solution, even though before you write your business rule, that the business rule stated you need to write an exception. So the test should have done what you started to do, that's have a try catch. And
Yeah.
you went ahead writing the partial test, and you wrote a good solution because the solution is very good, but you didn't work, you didn't state it on the test. So let's go back. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I've actually thrown exception is accent. I will assert that thrown exception no, and I guess that should. Okay, I saw it pass, but I modified the test. So I just because I modified the test too much. I want to check whether if the logic changes here, the test is still catching the condition. So I'll remove the code that make the test pass in the first place, and
Yes, you can use isset. In PHP, you can use isset to define, or you can flag it to false or to nil or whatever you want to null. Yeah, I think
like
I think you have you need an underscore. Okay, that's okay.
if it's strange. Maybe that's because of my lack of enough PHP knowledge. Actually, it okay. So and I should visualize that, and now the test fails correctly. And if I get the offending the get back the solution, the test should pass, and it does. Okay, so now in the spirit of moving forward with the generalization, what I can do is write another test that that has a too long string, a string that's too long, and see whether that will make things work. So I can provide another example of the way too long string.
Now, is there in your mind a distinction between expectation that the string is way too long or just too long, or is it the same?
Yes, no, actually, if too long means that it can't be compacted and fall be.
Okay, thank you.
So you mean to just make things simpler? Okay, and I can provide another long string. And here it's an interesting case. about what example to find of a string that's too long. So I'll provide the first example, but not doubled for now, because I and I should code it. Okay, so this test case is now also failing. So I can think of the next small iteration to make the test pass. So maybe the next simplest thing is
Wait, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you. Why do you think this test is failing? Not the reason that it's failing, but you say this test is failing. What's your evidence that this test is failing?
It doesn't throw an exception, even though the string is longer than 160 characters.
How do you know that this test, the test at line 40, is failing? What's your evidence that is failing? The test on the line 40.
Yes, this one. The evidence is, oh, okay. So the message.
You're inferring things from not enough evidence because you are raising, okay, that would be the case. Of course, I know that was failing, but you are working without evidence, and this is not very good.
Okay,
so
I see.
Let's move on. Sorry to interrupt you, but you're working with a set of 4 tests, but when you run thousands, that kind of messages might be conflictive. You need to debug it, and we don't like debugging things.
Agree. So, okay, so now we know what test exactly is failing. So the next smallest increment is to add another conditional, but I think that
Why wouldn't you add another condition? Why would you add another if? What is making you stop from doing that?
Well, because we are doing it for the second time, and
is that a problem to make things for the second time?
Well, it depends on how complicated is the case, maybe.
How complicated is to add another condition for you?
Well, it's not complicated at all. I can just add it here.
It's a tricky question. Why is your gut telling you don't copy paste another if condition?
Well, I see. Because if for some reason I change the message here, which is again too long, but it's different, I'll have to change the condition to make the test pass. And this will...
What's the problem with that? Regarding to TBD, there are some things that we make things run, and then
Hmm.
when we see the code is smelling because it has repeated code, and we find a pattern,
Hmm.
we tend to generalize. But there are two different steps. Either you make the test pass by faking it, either you refactor the test by making it. You
Hmm.
shouldn't be doing the same. You cannot do those things with broken tests. You cannot generalize with broken tests. So TDE, I
Okay.
advise to fake it, fake it, fake it. And as an optional step, after you fake it and you say, oh, duplication, they told me duplication was bad, you make it. But you don't make it while correcting tests. You make it
I see.
once your tests are green. So don't be afraid to copy paste, to make the test green again or running again. And then in a different step, in a different scenario, without changing your test, you can do what it's compelling you to avoid code duplication.
I
Yeah,
see.
and
Okay.
making it means you are modifying the structure of your code,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you are leaving the behavior intact. You're not disrupting the behavior.
Yeah. I'm just changing the compact message itself, but not the tests. Okay. So I'll fake that again. And let's see whether the test passes. Okay, so the test passed. And when I basically look at the code, I see the aforementioned duplication, and I'd like to refactor that and make it prettier. So
You can do
here
it
what I,
as long as you don't touch and you don't make changes on your tests. You can take it,
yes,
you can change either your test or your code. Now leave the test alone and do your code duplication removal.
yes, exactly. So uh, I'll just check whether the length of the message is above 160 characters. And let's see whether that change is okay. The tests still pass. So can I do another refactoring? Maybe I can, but I'm not sure whether it's the right time to do it. Because if I actually have quite a few cases now, an empty string, a single word, too long. So what I'm thinking is whether the empty string and single word cases are general enough to remove this condition, but
You have your test. As long as your test keep working, do whatever you want. That's what refactoring is for. Do it. Don't be afraid. If they fail, you roll back. As long as the
okay,
test run, you can do whatever you want.
okay, then I'll simplify it further, and I remove the first conditional, see that my tests pass.
And if you're doing TCR, the rollback happens automatically.
Yeah.
I
You
knew you were about to tell me that.
yeah.
uh, First have to learn TDD before doing something else. Anyway, um, okay, by the way, we're a bit out of time. Should I continue?
I have a hard stop at 11. I don't know about you, Maxi. Um, let's keep going until 11 if you don't mind, or if you're too
Okay.
tired, Tsvetan, we can stop now and continue later, or whatever works for you. But I need to stop at 11.
Okay,
My
let's
time.
continue with at least another test case and see what happens here. Okay, so we have the two wonk test, which is again um, the next thing that's interesting is so if I go straight for trying to compact even a part of the message, that might be a bigger step than necessary. So the next small increment I can take is to maybe see what happens at exactly 160 characters, because that's also an interesting boundary for the test, and it's something that's a well-known mistake. For example, uh, something that can be fuzzy, whether it's 160 characters inclusive or 160 characters exclusive. So I'm going to write a test for that. Uh, see how this goes. Test exactly uh, first. And by the definition of the task, understand that when the message is exactly 160 characters, it can be sent without further processing.
Yeah.
So I should so an exception shouldn't be thrown in that case. I think that's what is important for me as a client.
Also, keep in mind that the real client is not the end user; it is the SMS service, right? Because you're telling
Okay.
either telling SMS server good to go, everything's cool, or you're telling it, look, I could not crunch this,
Mhm.
and then they
So
decide
the
what's next. Yeah.
so if so maybe we should that's I won't do it now, but just think maybe we should move away from exceptions and return some kind of a data structure that has either a result or some kind of an error message, so it can be easily serializable and
Yeah, good.
used by their services. But
Because again, your code is going to be the broker. Your
aha,
code is going
okay.
to intercept the message, massage it, and then pass it on, either with
Hmm.
just and the SMS will just take it and forward it, or with the whatever, however you want to envision. I could not do it,
Hmm.
and so the SMS service knows. Okay, I'm sorry, we could not process your message. Very simple from the consumer standpoint.
Okay, yes, I understand. Um, So I'll just finish the boundary first. Maybe I won't have time for this to finish it because it's almost 11, I think. But uh, let's try my best. So the boundary, I'll take it for from the example itself. Maybe it's around here. I'll just check. No, that's one character. Yeah, because we have to. And I'll just add some. So we have 2, 4, 6. So that's the exact boundary here. It's 160 characters. And I want to compact that, and basically we don't expect to have an exception. So if we are here, then it should fail, and it's not exception. When I run this, it succeeds, but I have to make it fail to make sure that it actually works. So I'll change that, and for some reason it doesn't fail. So I'll have to see whether my test cases has some issue within it, or the oh, of course, probably strlen is counting the I don't know what it should be counting. Okay, anyway, if you'd like to continue next time, probably, because I
Sure.
feel I'm a bit tired now, and
Yeah, no,
see we're approaching the time.
you did brilliantly well, and thank you for. I know we
I
put
doubt that.
in a tight spot. Thank you very much, Tsvetan. I'll post this and send you the link, and then we can talk about if you want to do it later. Maxi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maxi. And
You can learn so much from Maxi. This is not even funny. I knew it. So this was
yeah,
brilliant. I really appreciate you
really?
guys. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, think about all the discussion that was going. It was just top notch. I'm sure our
Mhm.
people can learn a lot from this. But yeah, if you want to, we can continue later, see how far we get. But
Mhm.
gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Have
Okay,
fun, guys. Bye.
bye. Bye, Svetan.